This is my toolbox that I wrapped in VVivid's Indestructible Vinyl in their black colorway. I'll show you how I wrapped my toolbox with this really unique vinyl in this video, so let's get started. The first step in any successful vinyl wrap installation is to ensure that the surface you're going to be wrapping is prepared and cleaned thoroughly. Here you can see on the side of my toolbox I've gone ahead and done some disassembly to make the surface as flat as possible. I took off the handlebar, the cord holder, and the power strip that was mounted to the side of my toolbox, and now I'm just cleaning the side of this toolbox, and I'll clean the entire toolbox actually, where I'll be wrapping with a mixture of isopropyl rubbing alcohol and water and a clean microfiber cloth. Be sure to do this thoroughly so that your surface is fully clean free of dirt, oil, and debris. The next step is to ensure that you have a piece of vinyl cut out and ready to apply to the surface that you're going to be wrapping. And I'm just setting this up where I'm putting the chunk of vinyl that I know is tall enough with a little bit extra top and bottom, kind of just setting it up onto the side of the toolbox, and then what I'll be doing there is rolling it out and then seeing about where the back end of the vinyl and the toolbox meet, and then cutting just past that by about an inch or two to give myself a little bit of wiggle room. Actually, a faster and easier way would be just to go ahead and take measurements of the surface area you're going to be wrapping, length by width, add a little bit of extra top, bottom, left, and right so that you have some wiggle room as well, and go ahead and pre-cut your vinyl. Either way you do it is fine, just whatever is more comfortable for how you want to go about doing this. And once you have that vinyl cut and ready to go, it's time to start the application process. So to apply the vinyl, you can see that I've set up my vinyl on the side of the toolbox with a little bit of wrapping around the front because I'm going to be using this panel to wrap around that front edge of the toolbox. I just use my magnets to basically get it in place, left, right, up, and down with a little bit excess all the way around. Once I was comfortable with where the vinyl was placed, I went ahead and peeled about the back third to quarter of the vinyl off of the backing paper, and then cut away the backing paper so that I can expose the vinyl and then apply that part of the vinyl to the surface of the toolbox. What this did is create a hinge so that I can then remove the rest of the magnets, pull up the front side of the vinyl, and then apply the vinyl smoothly and evenly along the rest of the face of the side of the toolbox. Towards the bottom and then towards the top, I'm using the hard edge of my squeegee to basically tuck the vinyl in as best I can into the different crevices of the vinyl, which I'll be using, of the toolbox, which I'll be using essentially as my cut line, cut guide, as you'll see me do in the video, to be able to trim nice and evenly and easy. Make sure that you've applied the vinyl all the way thoroughly. Use your squeegee to rub all around just to make sure you can find any little bubbles, get them pressed out. You can poke them if you need to with the tip of your knife if you want. Make sure all your edges are tucked in on the top and the bottom, and if you have maybe some side edges, make sure they're tucked in. I'm just using the hard edges of my squeegees to make sure that I have everything tucked in nicely. As far as the holes that will be on the side of the toolbox, basically I used my finger to try to find them and then kind of push the vinyl in a little bit to trace and outline them, and then from there I can just use the edges as my guide. As far as trimming off the top and bottom excess vinyl, I'm using again different hard edge squeegees and micro squeegees to define that line, and then trying to use my knife carefully and float that inside the edges or along the bottom edge of the vinyl, as you see me do in the video for the bottom section there. On the top and the sides, it'll be the same. Just basically find your edge, trace it out well with your squeegee or micro squeegees, and then go ahead and proceed to make the cut. Do this all the way around for all the things that you find in there. There's a couple of rivets that I wasn't able to take out along the top right back corner of my toolbox, and so what I did was use a hard micro squeegee to basically trace those, and then you can see that I'm trimming and cutting around and relief cutting those to be able to take those out if I needed to. And so proceed to go ahead and find all those edges and define and tuck everything that you need to and trim them out along the, in this case, the side of the toolbox. I had several different other areas that I needed to find, trace out, and cut out in order to finish up at least the side of this toolbox. And so now that we have the side fully wrapped and cut out, I'm going to go ahead and wrap the front little pillar or column of the edge of the toolbox there, and basically I'm going to use a wrap glove to protect my hand as I use my thumb to roll the vinyl over that corner and onto the front edge of the toolbox. From there I'll go and transition back to using my squeegee, making sure that it's fully applied, and then essentially doing the same process as we did on the side by making sure everything is tucked in and defined really well so that when I go to trim it, it's easy to find it. So tuck and cuts, along with using the side edges of the different surfaces of the toolbox sides to go ahead and guide your knife and trim off the excess vinyl. And so now that is the side of the toolbox along with the front edge fully wrapped in VVivid's Indestructible Vinyl. Trying to get a little close up here so you can see what this looks like a little bit better, fully finished on the side. So the next step will be wrapping the front faces and edges of the rest of the toolbox that we will be wrapping. So next we'll be wrapping essentially the front frame of the toolbox. As you can see, I've already taken out all the drawers of the toolbox. I've also cleaned the surfaces, basically the frame of the front of the toolbox, and I'm just basically getting my vinyl set up as I had done on the side there. Again, you could just pre-measure all the strips and pieces that you will need. I'm doing it essentially the hard way and just putting it on there, mocking it up, and then cutting off pieces. As you can see me cutting off the different strips and sizes that I would need for the different sections of the frame. Once I've got all the pieces all cut, I can go ahead and make sure that everything is cleaned again one last time, and then go ahead and proceed to apply the different strips of vinyl to the frame surfaces of your toolbox. And in this case, I started off with this one horizontal frame piece that was below the top one, and it was an easy peel and stick and apply the flat surface. Now this one does have a ledge, so kind of like we did with the front side edge, I used my wrap glove to help me roll that over the top ledge and then apply the vinyl using my squeegee once it was over, and then doing some tucking and cutting, and then using the side edges of the frame of the toolbox to guide my knife as far as cutting. If there were areas that I needed to tuck to draw a line to be able to cut better, I went ahead and did that using my micro squeegee and hard edge of my squeegees. Basically, you're going to do the same process for all the different strips of the frame of your toolbox. Here you can see I am starting to do the top. Now this one is a little different because it has a little key lock in the middle, and you'll see that I just went right over it, applied a little bit of heat, kind of encapsulated, if you will, poked a hole to get some air out there, used the hard edge of my squeegee to define the side edge of that little lock piece there, and then carefully trimmed out around that lock to be able to finish applying the vinyl around that area there. And again, just like with everything else, apply the vinyl with your squeegee, making sure everything is on the surface very well. Tuck and cut as necessary. Make sure that you use your hard edge of your squeegees or micro squeegees to define the tuck and cut lines before cutting, and then go ahead and trim carefully. And then on edges that you don't have to tuck and cut, make sure that you're using the side edge of the frame of the toolbox to help guide your blade by running the non-cutting side of the blade against the side of the toolbox to make a nice clean and even cut. And so here is the frame of the front of the toolbox, fully wrapped with the different strips, all put together. Pretty simple, peel and stick. The bottom part there, you can see that I folded over and onto the floor. I did not trim off the backside because the drawers will fully cover that and you won't be able to see the wavy edges in the back. But for all intents and purposes, the framing of the front of the toolbox is now finished, and so now we just have to do the drawer faces. The drawer faces are actually quite simple. Make sure you cut out your vinyl pieces to the appropriate size. Peel, stick, and apply. Basically making sure that you squeegee down the surfaces really well. If there's a ridge, make sure you feed that in and squeegee and apply. Tuck and cut any surfaces, and use the side edges of the drawer face edges to be able to trim your vinyl appropriately. Do that for all the different faces, and then you'll be able to knock this out fairly quickly. Alright guys, so here is the final product. As you can see, I've finished wrapping the drawer faces and I've fully reassembled my toolbox. Gotta say, this looks really great, adds a unique rugged look to the toolbox, as well as adding at least a layer of scuff and scratch protection to the metal portions. So this was actually a fairly easy project to do, just kind of long and tedious because there was a lot of surface area to take care of. The vinyl is a little thick, so it can be tricky to work with, but overall not too bad, and it turned out great, I think. So if you thought this video was helpful, be sure to hit that like button and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Also, don't forget to hit the bell notification button so you get notices when I post new content to the channel. Thanks again for watching, guys. Have a great day.